Hi, friends. Welcome back. And if this is your first time tuning in, my name is Jasmine and I watch a shit ton of TV. And one of the shows that I have been obsessed with is Love Island USA. Now, I'm a first time Love Island viewer. And of course, since I've been talking about the show on my TikTok, I've been getting fed so much Love Island USA content. I was scrolling the other day and I came across a young woman who was talking about Love Island USA from like a psychological perspective. And I was like, that is a conversation that I want to have. So I hit her up. Her name is Bailey, and she is a Gen Z marriage and family counseling grad student who loves reality TV and pop culture. And I was like, I want to have a talk with her. So I'm going to bring Bailey in, and we're going to talk about the psychology of Love Island USA. Hi, Bailey.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining today. I'm so excited to talk to you about the psychology of Love Island USA because, like I mentioned, I'm a first time Love Island viewer and I'm completely obsessed with the show. So I need to know like how it's affecting my psyche and why I'm like itching for a new episode every day. Are you a true blue Love Islander? Have you been watching since season one? What's your history with the show?
I am. My fiance and I have been together for over 7 years. And I think the first year of us dating, we started watching the UK version. It's only my third season now with US, but all the UK files I've been through, I've been a big fan for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, people keep telling me I should jump into the UK. I tried to watch season 10 of the UK, but then people were like, you need to be watching season 6 of US. So I'm simultaneously watching Love Island USA season 6 and Love Island USA season 7. So I don't have time yet for UK, but I will get into it at some point.
You got to start with the early ones too. That's where
Okay, the
it's.
early UK.
Uh huh.
Okay. I'm not gonna lie. For the longest, I was confusing this show with Too Hot to Handle, and for the longest time, when people would talk about Love Island, I thought they were talking about Too Hot to Handle. So I'm like, yeah, I've seen a season of that. Completely different shows, completely different networks, but still all young, very beautiful people, like on an island type vibe, and
Yeah.
making out with each other. We're just gonna get into some questions really quick because, like I said, I'm so curious about the psychology around this show. So I wanted to ask you a couple things. I saw you make a video recently where you were talking about feeling uncomfortable with the vote. And just to give, clarity, I'm sure anybody watching this is familiar with Love Island, but just in case you're not, we were able to vote for the new bombshells to couple up with someone. And it seems like all of America voted for Jeremiah to couple up with Iris to break him up with Huda. And you made a video and you were like, yes, I participated in the vote, but watching it play out on TV was so uncomfortable. I share the same sentiments, Bailey. Can you talk about why that is? I know you mentioned when we watch people on reality TV, we stop registering them as humans. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I was watching kind of the archived files of Love Island or the older seasons. So it was my first time voting in real time. I don't know if maybe some other people that have been keeping up with it in more current times have a different take. But yeah, it was just kind of uncomfortable to see the emotional after effects that were taking place with all these islanders and everyone to be like sobbing and just so confused by this choice too, and to see all of the impacts that like the viewers have on the show was really interesting and uncomfortable a little bit, but yeah, absolutely. So I feel like when we see someone on our screen, it's just automatically we view them as a character, like a movie character, a TV character. There's just some sort of wall that goes up, and it's the
Mhm.
same thing with social media. Like when you see someone on your screen, there's a screen there, you feel like you have a shield a little bit. It feels very removed from you. And so it doesn't feel like it affects you. It doesn't feel like it really has anything to do with you. And which is true, right? But on a human level, on just a human connection level, I wouldn't ever go up to someone in real life and be like, no, your man should not be with you. So he's gonna go be with this person now.
Right.
Regardless of how I felt about their relationship ever. So it is just kind of crazy to see that happen on a TV level and then it play out in front of your screen.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, I was sitting and I actually pulled my boyfriend in to watch the last couple minutes of the show. And it was right when Ariana was going to announce who Iris was going to couple up with. And they knew, like, the producers knew to build the tension. Like, there was such a long pause, but I was literally like, holding on to his shoulder as if this is the presidential election. Okay, like I'm holding on to his shoulder. And she said Jeremiah, and I'm like, and then watching Huda's face crack, it was surreal because, yeah, immediately when she started crying, I was like, what have I done? Am I
Yes.
a terrible person? Like, Immediate guilt.
Yeah, and it really hits you that, "Oh, wait, that is real life." It kind of removes that barrier, at least for a moment, to feel like,
Yeah.
"Oh, wow, I actually had an effect on this right now. This is actually real life."
Exactly, but my boyfriend was like, "Dude, you voted for people who have known each other, like, all of 2 weeks. I think they'll be fine.
Mhm.
It's not that bad." And I'm like, "You know
Uh-huh.
what? Thank you for bringing me back down to earth because I was in bed stressed out. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a bully. I'm sick. I'm a
I
sick
know.
individual. Like, America, we are terrible people."
I need to go to timeout. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And then, just moving on to the next episode, which is episode 13. People over social media have been like almost clamoring for a Huda crash out. I never bought into that because I'm like, I don't think people fully understand what it means to like crash out for real. I don't want to see anybody do that on reality TV. But we got, the anticipated Huda crash out, and people were kind of like reacting to it with mixed emotions because half of the fandom, I think, were like, "Oh, this is great TV. This is amazing reality TV." And then some people were like, "Wait a minute, this is kind of sad to watch. It's kind of scary." I sit somewhere in the middle, right? Because I'm a millennial. I'm an old school like reality TV. Like I've seen some toxic stuff happen on reality TV, just like growing up with it and watching all of the different ways that it's evolved over time. But I'm also, again, because I'm in my 30s, I'm like, I recognize that crash out. That's a crash out that I had when I got my first heartbreak in high school, or, my first real long term relationship when I was like 19 or 20, completely unhinged, heartbroken. So I felt so deeply for Huda. And I'm like, I don't know that I would have wanted America to see these moments of my life. And so, where do you stand with that? And why do you think the fandom is so mixed in the way that we feel about watching that?
I think, I mean, you put it so well, like just to be split between that. It is going back to the idea of it being a human and someone on your screen, right? Like, I think that as humans, we feel for Huda and we're like connecting with her and empathizing with that moment. And we also want to be entertained. We want the show to be progressing and having some plot twists and keeping us on our seat. And so I think it is just a balance of us like wanting the drama and wanting to see how that progresses, and then also feeling, oh, that does suck though. And but even with that, I think that people connect with that, they resonate with that. And we've seen that with us crash out, and the fact that people are now kind of the narrative is shifting. I've seen a little bit, at least on my TikTok feed, of people being like, no, like Huda's justified in feeling this way. And now the narrative's switching a little bit. More people are
Mm.
defending her, I've seen.
Yeah, like her being justified, I don't, it's so hard to fully agree with that statement because, like I said, I certainly have crashed out like that
Mhm.
more than once, right? Growing up and just dealing with really complex emotions around relationships. And when you introduce sex, especially very early on, as we've seen Huda and Jeremiah do. So it's understandable that her emotions would be really strong at this point. She's also 24. It doesn't matter. You're 24, you make 24-year-old choices and you have 24-year-old emotional regulation, right? So I think when we talk about her being justified in it, it's understandable, but it also was a little scary to see because there was a scene when she was like full on yelling, calling Jeremiah everything but a child of God when she was sitting like on the little benches and they were almost restraining her. And I was like, if this wasn't televised, I fully believe she would have physically like attacked Jeremiah. And this is not asking for a diagnosis or like trying to paint her out as a bad person. I'm just thinking, do you think that's where that could have gone if there wouldn't have been cameras?
That's certainly how I felt. I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard to say, right? But I felt uncomfortable too watching that. And like when she pulled Iris up for a chat, I remember feeling kind of like when the boys went down to get the girls and they all were like, oh, we're going to go up there now. That
Yeah.
felt very much like my friend is crashing out at the bar and, she's about to go talk to her ex and fight his new girl, or something drama like that where you have to kind of go get your girl and be like, you need to take it down a couple notches. That's how it felt. And I could definitely see if it progressed to that level on TV, who's to say what could have happened if cameras weren't there, if there weren't other people there. But it definitely did feel very intense and very aggressive in that moment,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, it was scary. I don't think she's gonna be very proud of that moment once
Mhm.
she comes out of the villa, but, everybody makes mistakes. It's just unfortunate some people's mistakes are now gonna live
I know.
forever on the internet and on TV. I feel for her. I want her to get some help though, because it seems like there's some deep-rooted trauma there with
Mhm.
Huda and she's reacting. But yeah, just kind of moving on from just the Huda and Jeremiah of it
Yeah.
all. I'm really curious audience wise because I was telling you, so you're Gen Z, I'm millennial, we're both watching this show. I've seen such a diverse group of people watching Love Island and then talking about it. Like I've seen different generations, anywhere from Gen Z up to Gen X, right? I've seen men, women, straight, LGBTQ. There's so many different people that are watching this show and talking about it. Why do you think a show like this is able to draw such a diverse audience?
Yeah, when I think of comparing Love Island, I like to I compare it to the Bachelor franchise a lot just because I think
Mhm,
about another big dating show. And I mean, just from that comparison, I think it attracts a diverse audience because it does do a much better job in comparison to shows like The Bachelor, perhaps, of having a more diverse cast and
mhm,
more people to relate to. I think in like social comparison theory, like people want to relate to someone and they want to find bits of themselves or bits of their life in what they're watching. And so when you have a more diverse cast, when you have people from all backgrounds, walks of life, different areas of the country, different ages, multiple relationships going on, right? So not even just one storyline. There's so many more opportunities to find something you resonate with. And then also just the frequency of the show, it makes you really feel like you're there, right? It's every single night almost. There's an episode dropping and cameras are rolling all the time. So there's really this sense of being like attached to these people or feeling like, the parasocial relationship is so strong
mhm.
because every single night. And it's also a dopamine release. It's like gambling. Like every night, what's gonna happen? I'm
Yeah.
waiting for my show. So I just feel like there's a few different things that definitely play into that. Some of it being relating to the people on the show, some of it being just the format of the show and how it's
Mhm.
released too. Yeah.
I agree with everything you said. I think my theory was much more superficial, honestly, because I was looking at the show and I'm like, we have young, beautiful people who are horny as hell on an island with each other,
That
making
too.
out with each other. Yeah, right. I'm just like, it kind of underscores America's obsession with youth and beauty,
Mhm,
right? Like, we get
mhm.
to watch these very beautiful people kind of act naughty. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah, absolutely. For sure.
Yeah.
And I think like with that too, that's just adds to kind of like how much you invest in it too, and like how much you're drawn to it because you want to see what's going to happen. And with there being less filter that's happening or, more access to them, you really just feel like more invested in that too and more like, oh my gosh, what are they going to do? Because I can see them at all times.
Yeah,
So,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
it's and I know you don't watch Big Brother that much, but it kinda goes to it speaks to that, like, Big Brother, they have a 24-hour live feed, so you can always just
Oh,
tune
okay.
in and watch what people are doing in the Big Brother house, and it's, like, very
Oh,
voyeuristic, and we kind of already answered it. My next question was gonna be about what's driving the desire to watch. This show airs on a streamer, but it is appointment viewing. At 9 o'clock, I'm in bed,
mhm.
like, where is Love Island? And when it premiered, when season 7 premiered, I think it was delayed on Peacock. I saw everybody like, "Where is the episode?" Like, "It's
Yeah.
late." And because of the reasons that we talked about, but also, like, we as an audience, we just talked about voting, we feel like we're a part of this process. We feel like we are on the production team with the voting and, like, the app. You can go on and literally just vote on, like, how you feel about scenes and stuff. And so do you think that audience interaction, is that also driving our desire to watch and be a part of this community?
Oh, 100%. And I think that's part of it too. It's kind of like your investment in it. It's building community too. The fact that it's airing every night at the same time and there are so many conversations about it. It's if you don't watch every night, if you're not participating, you are left out of a conversation, right? Of a very big
Mhm.
conversation. And you
Mhm.
want to participate in that. You want to be able to, talk to your friends and make that small talk and know what's going on. So I think that's also another part of it is like the inclusion factor with
Mm.
the community of people as well as with the show.
Yeah, it does feed our desire to be included and
Yeah.
have community. Absolutely. You're so right about that. Now, let's get into the video that made me reach out to you. And it was when you were talking about the situation that the Islanders are in, right? I wanted to ask you, why do some people thrive in situations like this? And in the video, you were talking about it's like a social experiment within a controlled environment, it's high pressure, all of that. It seems like Shelly, Alandria, Nick, right? Those are a few people that I think are not just doing particularly well in the house, but like they're kind of winning over the audience
Mhm.
versus people like, oh, even Ace, right? Ace is like a very polarizing character this season.
Mhm.
Some people really love him, some people really hate him, but I can say he's probably one of, if not the best person that looks like he's handling the situation with a cool head. Why do you think some people thrive in situations like this and some people like Huda, like Jeremiah, unfortunately just don't?
I think it comes down to personality types, just backgrounds, how you approach things, your emotional regulation skills.
Yeah.
I think that people that are more extroverted and more confident in themselves are probably going to have an easier time on the show. I think a lot of people come to the show very confident, right? But also like feeling secure in relationships, kind of going back to the attachment styles. The more secure you are within yourself and the more secure you can be with your relationship, I think the more cool headed, level headed you're going to be throughout the process, as well as just like honesty and vulnerability. I think there has to be some kind of mix between all of that. So, some level of extroversion, and then also your authenticity, and also like how secure you're going to be and how authentic you're going to be with
Mhm.
the audience and everyone else. You have to be agreeable to a sense too. Like you have
Yeah.
to get people to like you without being too much of a pushover or like blending in too much. I think there's definitely an equation for it, some sort of perfect, little equation that helps everyone like find that right formula, but it just kind of
Mhm.
depends on that, like how you approach it with your personality, I think.
Yeah. Is there a specific personality type that you can name or describe that you think is kind of like the best or has the best chance of surviving or thriving in a controlled environment like Love Island?
Gosh, it would be hard to narrow down like an exact personality type just because there's so many different personality
Right.
tests and types that you can look at. If I had to narrow it down to the top 3 traits though, I would definitely say high extroversion, like on the big 5 of personality traits. High extroversion, high authenticity, and high confidence or like comfortability maybe, self-assurance, just being able to get along with others and be self-aware of how you might be perceived without being too self-conscious.
Yeah. While we're talking about personality types and people in the villa, this happens just on social media. It's like the nature of the beast. People create these parasocial relationships with
Mhm.
content creators, celebrities, and they do it in a way that can border on unhealthy, right? They create these relationships with these people and they have this allegiance and it becomes toxic. So the way that I watch reality TV is like I can watch it and separate from the people on television. I'm watching it very well understanding that I do not know these people. I'm watching something that is heavily edited. And so what I'm seeing might not be the full picture of who they are as a person. But some people watch it and they become deeply invested in certain couples or islanders. Like what's happening psychologically that makes people root for them as if they know them personally?
Yeah, that's a great question. And one that I would love to see like further explored for sure because I don't have all the answers. My theory is really just kind of going back to that accessibility and being able to see yourself in the characters. I think that with social media and content creators and being able to access people at all times, kind of having that instant gratification, there's already this sense of feeling like you know people that you see on a screen, right? Or like that
Mhm.
you have some sort of access to them, and then the same happens for Love Island when you have all this access to the islanders, whether it's through talking about them in the community with people, watching the show, voting, engaging in anything else. There's games and other things that are all Love Island. So I think the more that you invest in that, the more you have this false sense of closeness and ownership, involvement. There's also this false sense of feeling like it's authentic because of how frequently it drops and because of how much you get to know about the islanders. They don't have private showers. They all sleep in a shared bedroom. There's all this access to the islanders. So you automatically feel kind of like you can let your guard down and know that, oh, well, this is so real. This is so
Yeah.
authentic. I see all these moments.
Yeah.
It's not super edited, super polished all the time. So I think that all just kind of contributes and makes you think, oh, so this is more authentic.
Yeah. What does the role that aspiration plays in people feeling like they're close to specifically the Love Islanders? Like we mentioned earlier, they're beautiful, they're on TV, they get to have multiple relationships at a time. Like it's very fun. They're in Fiji, right? So Are people at home watching this and also just wanting to be like them? So that does that make them also feel more connected?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that
Mm.
goes to the influencers and whatnot as well too. You get this curated version and you feel like that is so perfect. That's something I want. And it's both optimistic and it's discouraging, right? It's something like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to work for this. I want to have this. And also it cuts you down enough too to feel like, I need to keep watching because what are they doing that I'm not? And I don't have that.
Mm,
And also, like, whatever the psychology behind beauty, right, is that when someone is beautiful, they're perceived as being good. So when someone's
mm,
attractive, you automatically assume they're great. Like their life
yeah.
is great. They can speak well. They have the best relationships. They have the best access to things. So all of that kind of works together, I think, to just social comparison, just to feel like, oh, I want to live vicariously through that. And also, this is now making me feel insecure about my life. And now this is going to be an escape for me too.
That's interesting. So, in closing, Bailey, just one more question. If you had to describe Love Island USA as like a case study in modern dating behavior, what are some of the biggest takeaways you think the show reflects about how people connect today?
Yeah, I think it's a really good representation of modern dating culture for a few reasons, actually. One being just the instant gratification, the accessibility or the false sense of accessibility with each other, right? Just because of how we interact with people through dating on social media, on dating apps. Also, that sense, like for dating apps being the most prevalent form of meeting someone these days in
Mhm.
modern dating culture, it kind of plays in with Love Island. It's a big game. It's a big game of coupling up with people, swiping in real life, if you will, and being able to kind of have the ability to move on to the next if that's what you need to do. So it's the quick closeness and the instant gratification of that relationship. And then also, there's an exit door right there for you. So I
Mhm.
think it kind of has something to say about the way that we interact with dating apps in modern
Yeah.
dating culture, as well as our tendency to not commit too quickly now. Marriage rates are down. People are less likely to commit to partners. They are
Mhm.
likely to have live in partners in serious relationships for longer amounts of time. That's just true in modern dating. And I think that shows on Love Island with the ambiguous conversations, the ambiguous couplings of, I'm open or we're still exploring. We're coupled up, but we're not in a relationship. We're coupled up, but we're not exclusive. So if I had to say, I think Love Island's a great representation of modern dating because it really does highlight how that impacts people as they try to find a partner.
I think from what I see online, it definitely represents just what is happening right now. But, I don't want to keep you too long. This was such an insightful conversation, and I thank you so much for being here. Is there anywhere that people can find you, follow you if they want to see any more of your videos or talk to you more?
Yeah, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram. It's Gen Z Counselor B. Hit me up over there. I'm excited to keep talking about Love Island and psychology and all the good things.
Cool. And that's it, right?
That's it right there.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks so much, Bailey.
Yeah. Thank you.